Anyway.
We were recording that whole thing, so.
Oh, yeah, sure. That is a thing. Let's hit the news. First up, we have some rumors coming from the Resident Evil camp. It's been reported that surprise. It's been reported that Capcom has greenlit the remake of Resident Evil 4, and new potential details arise out of Resident Evil 8. After the wild success of Resident Evil 2 and 3, the Osaka-based developer M2 has fully entered production on the next entry and is expected to ship within 2022. M2 is a relatively new developer on the scene, formed by former Platinum Games head Tatsuya Minami, which has been preparing for the project since late 2018, and is rumored that the production team will be split between M2 and the Devil May Cry 5 team. As for Resident Evil 8, early title suggests that the title of the game will be called Village Resident Evil, with the Roman numeral for 8 being highlighted in the word Village. Chris Redfield is featured as a reoccurring character. He's looking much slimmer and older this time around, with the years of hunting down Umbrella and their zombie outbreak catching up to him. Ethan is once again the lead man, following his performance in Resident Evil 7. Some developers have likened his persona to that of Ash Williams of The Evil Dead, being quick-witted and short-tempered. The inventory system seems to be borrowing from Resident Evil 4's Tetris-style attach case. The game takes place in an isolated snowy village as Ethan goes from house to house in an attempt to make contact with the outside world while being hunted down by a cult of beastmen. Resident Evil 8 is slated for 2021 release.
This should just be called Resident Evil Van Helsing, is what this should be called. Because it's supposed to be taking place in Europe and all this other shit.
Yeah.
I didn't finish Resident Evil 7, but I remember the beginning of Resident Evil 7, and Ethan, you're Ethan, right? In the whole game. He's very like timid and shit like that. Does he have the same arc as like Ash does, where he's like super timid and then turns into like a shotgun wielding badass?
I guess that's what they're liking it to.
Dude, my backlog on this fucking pandemic is I gotta get caught up on shit.
Well, I'll never reach it, but I definitely want to start hitting and knocking out the Resident Evil series, because it's very similar to my experience with Devil May Cry. I must have played the wrong games because I didn't like it. And then Resident Evil 4 came out, and
I think we both started with 4.
I'm like, this is fucking amazing. And I played Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, which that is the only... No, I will... No, you got to try it. You have to try it. It is the only Wii game. It is the only game on the Wii with proper motion controls. Like, for a shooter, no, don't look at me like that. That game is phenomenal. That is the best shooter for any fucking, like, motion control bullshit. No, I don't give a shit. I don't fucking care. Resident Evil 4 Wii.
You like Umbrella Chronicles too?
No, that game's shit. That game's garbage. It's nothing like Resident Evil 4.
In your defense, back in the day when they all came out on the systems like that, the Wii version at one point was a superior version, but I do not believe it is anymore.
I haven't played Resident Evil 4 since then.
I mean, the HD remakes that have recently come out on like PlayStation 4, I think they're on, and like the PC and shit like that, they look great. In all honesty, Resident Evil 4 doesn't need a remake.
I don't think so either. My wife doesn't think. A lot of people. I got into an argument with some of my friends on another server. Kid's like a diehard when it comes to horror games, and we started going back and forth over whether or not Resident Evil 4 needs a remake. That's besides the point. I think that horror is kind of like
horror.
Yeah, horror.
We're gonna start getting everybody to say it. You know what that's from, right?
No.
I'll send you the link.
I picked it up from you.
It's from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Okay. I haven't seen that episode.
Well, it's because I think Ryan thinks Colin says horror, and he goes, no, horror. Anyway,
besides the point, I got into an argument with this kid, and it goes on for like 3 days
and
on whether or not
you won't let it end.
No, I still haven't let it end. He apparently said he dropped it. He was like, "Okay, Boomer." I'm like, "No, not Boomer. This is the reason why." It doesn't need a remake. It's like, I don't need to play a game with fucking take controls. I'm like, it works for this game. It's not that bad.
No, it's definitely not. Well, the rumors also come from Nibble on Twitter, or at Nibillion. And this guy has always been pretty accurate with his leaks and shit when it comes to... I mean, I know I'm bouncing back to the Resident Evil 8? Yes, Resident Evil 8. But yeah, we'll get to that.
He wasn't the one that originally leaked it. It was another guy.
That's true.
Anesthetic gamer who is like also really heavily in the Resident Evil scene. So
yeah, but yes, but we can't agree. Resident Evil 4 doesn't need a remake, but the reason they're doing it is because remakes are big right now and they're making money.
They've been gearing up for Resident Evil 4 since like Resident Evil 1. Like everyone was saying, it was like Resident Evil 4 is the best-selling Resident Evil game of all time. And they were hoping for another hit within Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. They haven't been seeing it. 7 is, don't get me wrong, 7 is really, really good. I think it's back to form kind of because that game is scary as shit. Yeah. But they're not seeing the success that they wanted to with 4. Or they didn't see it with 7. They almost saw it with 2 because 2 was phenomenal.
Imagine. So we had 2 came out last year.
Yes.
3 remake came out this year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a 4 remake comes out next year, and then 8 comes out the year after. That's 4 Resident... Go ahead.
8's coming out this year.
4 Resident Evil games in the span of 3 years. That's ridiculous. Granted, 3 of them are remakes, but that's still ridiculous.
Oh, no, I'm wrong. Resident Evil 8 comes out next year. Resident Evil 4 comes out the year after.
So it's 4 in 4 years.
4 in 4 years.
That's crazy.
That is insane.
That's unheard of for any Resident Evil game any of that.
It's like what they were saying. They have 2 separate divisions working on these games. So M2 assisted with Resident Evil 3. And now M2 is now working on Resident Evil 4 while the main team is working on Resident Evil 8.
The thing is, let's look at it. So Resident Evil 1 had its remake. It was on GameCube and all that stuff.
I mean, there was a remake on the Xbox One.
That fortifies my statement even more. So Resident Evil 1, and then we had Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 3. Those went a long time. Like, if you were like, oh, I wanted to play Resident Evil 2, a lot of people can't get past like how it looked. Like, there was nothing that looked better. Resident Evil 4 still looks good to this day.
Yeah.
So I really don't think when it comes out, people are going to be like, this looks amazing and all that. Like, it's going to look good. Like, let's be honest. All Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake look phenomenal. But we also have, and I don't want people to take this, like, I don't want to offend anybody by saying this, but the original look that you were looking at was kind of ass in the terms of today's graphics.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. That's like I said, though, that's not going to be the case with Resident Evil 4. So I don't think that impact's going to be as hard when it comes to Resident Evil 4 and the graphics and stuff like that.
So what some people are saying is that their development of Resident Evil 4 is going to incorporate a lot of the stuff that they were seeing within 3.5. There's a link in the Rely on Horror or the Biohazard broadcast. It's one of those 2 sites where, and this also reigns true for Resident Evil 8 as well, because it looks like the 2 teams are bouncing ideas off of each other, and the basis seems to be Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 3.5 apparently within the scene or the Resident Evil world is the beta that came out before Resident Evil 4 was announced with their story mode. It was kind of like, here's Leon, here's his design, here's all the areas that he's going to be like traversing through, here's like the the demo that they had,
Mm.
and there was a lot of deviations that they had from 3.5 going into 4.
Let me
And
ask you
so
this: was this voice actor for Leon the same as in 2 and 4?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's good because the original voice actor passed away recently. So
Yes, unfortunately.
yeah.
No, I don't think that the voice actor for 2 is the same for 4. I mean, I could be wrong,
Okay.
but I'm almost positive that it's not.
So in this story, I have one. It's weird because there's 2 things where I'm like, man, this game shouldn't, like Resident Evil 4. I don't think needs a remake. They should. What Capcom should do is see how successful Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remake were, and then maybe do that with their other franchises, like maybe with Dino Crisis or Darkstalkers or something like that. Like it shouldn't be like let's cash grab on remaking all the Resident Evil. Like let's remake our older games that people love. Let's do an HD, or not even just an HD remake, a legit remake of these games.
I think it's a little bit different there. I could see them doing it with Dino Crisis.
Yeah.
Dino Crisis is very similar to Resident Evil, but when you start talking about like Darkstalkers, that's a smaller fan group. Like they've
compared to the Resident Evil fan group, yes, you're right.
Yeah, like it's guaranteed money when you come out with a Resident Evil game. Remake a Resident Evil game. 2 separate things, like totally.
Yeah.
They'll make their money. You come out with Darkstalkers, make a new Darkstalkers or remake a Darkstalkers. Not as likely because fighting games don't sell. They're not as popular as everything else.
That's true. So I'm kind of done with talking about Resident Evil 4, but I am, from what I read about Resident Evil 8, I'm curious to see what this game's going to be about because this looks pretty interesting.
I could get the name of the movie wrong, but like the synopsis kind of gives me a 28 days later, 28 weeks later.
I'm getting
what's the movie that they were all in Alaska?
That's 30 Days of Night.
Okay, then that.
Yeah. I'm getting Resident Evil and Silent Hill vibes mixed together.
Okay.
Because they stated in some of the leaks that they have for Resident Evil 8 is there's a lot of hallucinations shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a new stalker like enemy called the Witch, which is going to be kind of like based off of the chick from Resident Evil 7.
Yes.
Where she pops up and then like you kill her, but she's not really dead. Like she uses like insects and shit, and she like her sentience splits into the insects as she runs away and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So, but the setting is in Eastern Europe, so you're probably gonna feel a lot of like, I'm gonna see like Bloodborne vibes. I'm like, you said Beastmen. There's a Beastmen part. There's gonna probably be like some kind of like, this is gonna be Resident Evil Transylvania, is what it is. That's what I'm feeling it's going to be. Of course, I mean, it's going to be like Resident, like a good 1980, or what is it? What's the order of 1866 or whatever it was?
Yeah, order 1886.
That's what it was. Yeah,
that was such a
God
damn.
It's such a good premise, not a great game.
They're coming out with a new game, right?
Okay,
they're doing a sequel, and all you can do is pray. All you can do is hope and pray.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna change my Facebook overlay to, is thoughts and prayers for Resident Evil. Here on RelyOnHorror.com, one of the thing that we were talking about earlier, it's like an article that they have. They go down some rundowns of what the new Resident Evil 8 is going to be. What's funny is the rumors is Resident Evil Village, and that makes a lot of sense if you look at the first 3 letters, actually first 4 letters of Village, the way it's shaded. And so, again, it could be a Photoshop shit, but they shaded it to where it shows like Resident Evil Roman numeral 8. So
literally what we said.
Yeah, I'm just recapping on it. That's what you do. You recap on things that you talk about, Chris. Asshole. But it says here too that there's not actually werewolves, but it's gonna be like wolf-like creatures and shit like that, but close enough to it. My main thing here is at the end it says no spoilers here, but a hint in the video's outro, which is the video that's on this article on RelyOnHorror.com. It's like a German video that talks about some of the leaks and stuff. It says, no, it can't be. Why you? I'm calling it right now. Wesker's going to be in this fucking game. Wesker was 100% in this fucking game.
I don't know.
Chris Redfield is in this game. Wesker's going to be in this game.
So they were saying that Chris Redfield may be taking a more, not full on, but a more antagonistic role. Because they're talking about there's a scene in like a what's the word? I'm trying to remember the word. A flashback where he starts going through Ethan's house with a gun. Like they just had a baby, or Mia is pregnant, Mia being his wife, and he's like breaking and entering into their home. So it could be Chris Redfield that they're actually talking about. Because they were saying, like, is Chris off his fucking rocker again?
It's either this, Wesker's in this game, or somehow we haven't. So correct me if I'm wrong. I pre-ordered not Final Fantasy, but I pre-ordered Resident Evil 6, but I didn't actually play it. Was Chris Redfield? There was a Chris like path in that one, right?
Yes.
There was a Leon. There was a
Call of Duty mode.
Okay.
So there's Leon, there's Chris, and then there's one other character who.
It was like Wesker's son or something like that.
I don't know. But here's the thing. It's supposed to be told in the perspective of Ethan, so it has to be somebody that Ethan knows.
Look, it's either going to be Wesker's going to show up, and then Chris is going to show up and all that. Or I'm going to go full fucking conspiracy theory on this. Wesker somehow has infected Chris. Look, it's Resident Evil, dude. Like, anything's fucking possible in this shit.
This is like the same argument that I had with somebody over like 10, 15 years back whenever Twilight Princess came out. And me and a friend are arguing that the main bad guy is not Ganon. And then his older brother comes in and is like, it's Ganon.
Yeah, it's Ganon.
Ganon's the bad guy. I was like, no, it's not. I was like, no, it's Ganon. And then lo and fucking behold, it's fucking Ganon.
It's always Ganon. It's always Ganon. Wesker is too good of an antagonist to just kill him off in 5. He's too good.
I would be so upset.
I love Wesker. I love him. He's a shitbag. He's exactly what an antagonist should be.
I would be so upset.
It's gonna happen. Audio listeners, Chris just took a swig off of his drink.
I'd be so upset. Anyway.
Well, more than likely...
Do you have anything else?
No, I'm good on it. More than likely, that Resident Evil 8 is going to be coming out on PlayStation 5. But the problem's going to be if you're going to be able to actually get a PlayStation 5 when it first comes out. So our next article that we have is PlayStation 5 is going to be limited, and the expected cost is between $500 to $550. Sony plans on outputting far fewer PlayStation 5s than fans were expecting for 2020. Production will curtail based on the lack of consumer confidence in the PS5's ambiguous specs, alongside the reportedly high cost of production. Sony told shareholders that the tech giant expects to push out 5 to 6 million units by March of 2021. Compare that to PS4's 7.5 million units sold within the first two quarters. Sorry, I did not switch over to the... Here we go. Just cut that out. Developers believe that due to the public perception and scarce components to build the PlayStation 5, they expect the initial price tag to be $499 to $549 in hopes of breaking even. Sony hopes that in the meantime, the PlayStation 4 can provide adequate entertainment between the games yet to be released, along with network features during the PS5's limited supply. As of right now, the MSRP for the PS4 base and the PS4 Pro is set at $299 and $399 respectively, but industry analysts expect these prices to be cut once the PS5 hits store shelves, which we've seen that with any time the older generation gets a price cut. We've seen it with the Xbox One. We've seen it with all the generations we've come through. The volume of PS5 the volume of PS5s manufactured can still be up in the air due to the long-term effects of COVID-19. Sony has required some of its employees to work from home, and projected sales meetings and conferences have been repeatedly pushed back. The virus has disrupted the company's marketing plans, making it difficult to organize their state of play events and having to forego public press conferences.
So,
on top of everything that's happening with the PlayStation 5, now they're not even going to be shipping as many as we thought they would be.
To me,
which
what
makes
this
sense.
is really reading more into is that they're trying to put on the face of being more committed to a 2020 release date.
Yeah.
Because last week we were talking about they weren't sure if they were going to do a 2020 release date. I feel like, and this was something that I wanted to talk about and I forgot to put it in the docket, but this is a good time of talking about it now. I think that Sony is scared.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Sony is very scared about what's going to happen within the next 2 to 3 years. Because I'm not sure if you noticed, there is a lot of Sony first-party games that are being announced for PC.
Yeah.
I forget which ones, but there was quite a few first-party games that were being announced for PC right after we had just covered the story about Horizon Zero Dawn going to PC.
That's right.
And what's his name? I think his name is Mark Cerny, talking about how no, they weren't planning on releasing any more games for PC. And then
lo and
that
behold,
happens.
they did.
Lo and behold, there was like 4 or 5 games that were announced for PC, expected PC release dates this year.
Well, Sony still doesn't have all the hardware figured out in their system yet. I would say they're fucking scared right now. Because Microsoft, I don't know what's happening behind the doors at any of these companies. I don't fucking work for these companies. But Microsoft is putting on the face that they got their shit going with this generation.
It's not even just that. The developers making the games are coming out and saying this shit.
Yeah.
So
unless Sony's paying a bunch of fucking money to pay those people off, I doubt it.
It sucks, but I may end up holding out on getting a PS5 just to see what the public reaction is, just to see that first couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that I'm probably going to get a Series X on launch. I may end up getting a PS4 Pro instead. I mean, if they're dropping the price to like $250, it might be worth
the PS4 Pro is definitely worth $250. The load times alone, the amount of time that you save in the load times alone will be worth it.
I mean, we'll see.
Then put a fucking solid state in that bitch, but like I did.
Yep.
Monster Hunter fucking loads like that. But I hate to see it. I've been seeing it on Facebook, like the whole Xbox versus PS4 fanboys or PlayStation fanboys. Mm-hmm. And I'm very tired of it. I understand it. It's been instilled into us as gamers from the very beginning. Like, it's either like, oh, like, yeah, there you go, console wars. So it started with Nintendo and Sega. It's been there ever since we've picked up controllers.
Yeah.
But I really feel like that shit, especially nowadays, where it's not like that anymore. It's not so much like, you'll get exclusives every once in a while. You'll have like Bloodborne, and I mean, shit, not even Halo is like exclusive to a console anymore. So, and that was like the big thing that Microsoft had for a long time on the Xbox. But I just want everyone to be able to play everything. I want more people to be able to play everything so we can get more opinions on games.
I remember like a couple months back, we were talking about something very similar on how Microsoft is putting all their games on PC because it's almost like they lost confidence in the Xbox and the Xbox brand. And not to say that we're seeing a complete 180, but you can definitely say that confidence is being reinstilled over really the last year.
Yeah. Fucking Spencer, man.
Yeah. I've said it before. I think that what we're going to see moving forward after this console generation that's coming up is that everything's going to be a platform.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Sony subscription, you have the Microsoft subscription, more emphasis is going to be put on the developer and the publisher rather than the hardware manufacturer. And right now, you know, they're one and the same, but emphasis on individual hardware may not be as important within the next 10 years.
I've changed my view on that a little bit. With the Xbox and PlayStation, yes, I do believe those are going to be platforms. I don't think so much with Nintendo. I think Nintendo's still going to try their innovative things. But the only thing we have to worry about with Nintendo right now is, have they reached the pinnacle? Have they reached the top of what they've been trying to do? Like, let's look at the Switch. Let's look at what the Switch is. The Switch is what the Wii and the Wii U were striving to be the entire time. They were trying to integrate their handheld system, which was the 3DS and the DS. They were trying to integrate those two worlds. They were trying to integrate them into one system, which is what the fucking Switch does.
I don't know. There was just recently a patent to come out from Nintendo that a variant of the Switch with 2 screens.
So we're just going to have a fucking home console 3DS is what it is.
I mean, that's cool. I like that. I don't know much to say about Nintendo because Nintendo was not recently, but like Nintendo was one of the first of the big 3 to go to mobile.
Yep.
I mean, they took Super Mario Run. Very successful. Dragula Lost, or if that's the name of the game.
Or Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem Heroes. Animal Crossing. Fucking they got their feet wet and they like the mobile money. So
they could go into that.
I don't know.
But I do like it, and I'm not so like Nintendo, of course, out of the main 3, I would say Nintendo is the one that does try new goofy shit, if that makes sense. Like with the Joy-Cons and the portability and all that. I do like companies that try to do weird things even if they're not successful. Like maybe that's my like 90s and early 2000s aesthetic with like, I mean, I automatically think of like the Dreamcast fishing rod and shit, like the peripherals of that shit. We don't have a lot of that shit anymore.
I mean, VR is kind of filling in that space because pretty much all those peripherals are a very archaic variant of that. I mean, why else would you use a fishing rod except to emulate the experience of real fishing?
I mean, Animal Crossing is a life emulator. That's exactly why it's so... No, it seriously is. Like, that's why it's so successful right now, is because we can't live our normal lives. And that's why everyone loves to play Animal Crossing.
Do you mean I can buy a house on my own?
I could buy a house with tarantulas? Like, that's amazing. But no, like, I don't know, man. Like, what was the story? Like, what's the... Oh, yeah, like I said from the beginning, I won't be... Unless they were to announce tomorrow Bloodborne 3 or Bloodborne 2... fuck it, they're not even going to play Bloodborne 2. They're going to go straight to Bloodborne 3. And they're just like, that's going to be a launch title with the PlayStation 5. Yes, Sony, you got my fucking money on launch day. Like, that's it. But that's different. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but
they don't have your money yet.
They don't have my money yet. I mean, Microsoft has my money more. Like, if Microsoft was to come out, because let's be honest, like, yeah, Microsoft is putting a lot of their games on PC and shit like that. That's because their new fucking system is a goddamn PC, is what it is. Would you agree with that?
Almost.
Both of these systems are like one step away from being just a legit fucking PC.
It's pretty close.
Like, if Xbox was to come out and say, like, what was the game that got canceled?
Scalebound.
If they were like, we're bringing Scalebound back and it's going to be a launch title for the Xbox Series X, I'm like, there you go, you got my money. Like, I'm gonna get it. So, but I've always been about playing the games are more than just the system for me. Like, a system's just gonna sit there and do nothing unless I have a game to put in it. So, I don't know. We'll see. Well, that's what we got. We just gotta fucking wait and see is what we gotta do.
more.
Speaking of Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Speaking of Animal Crossing, China has moved to ban online multiplayer with foreign countries. So following up on last week's story with Animal Crossing being shadow banned by China, it's now being reported that China is pushing new legislation to outlaw online gaming and communications with gamers outside of the country. Are you okay?
Shadowban is such a fucking good name for something that I can't think of it, but it's so good. It reminds me of like Shadowloo. I'm sorry. Also, I just took a drink of alcohol and it was really rough. So,
due to the communication system being regulated by the service provider rather than being monitored by the state, the Chinese Communist Party has found that there is an authority vacuum, quote unquote, in online space where players can openly socialize without moderation. Local municipalities are scrambling to draft bills to further censor video games and to deny contact with gamers outside of the Great Firewall.
So, I thought the Great Firewall was an ingenious joke you came up with. But then I read the article and I was like, I can't give him credit for it. So
nope, can't give you that. Can't give you that. Additional laws have been enacted on single-player online games, forcing players to use their real name, not allow games that feature zombies or plague, can't use map creation aspects, role-playing, not like RPG stat-building things, but like actual role-playing, kind of like D&D style type shit.
Anything creative.
Yeah. Gaming curfews or making an organization of gaming unions and also made gaming unions illegal. Even Chinese-based companies are cutting ties with player bases in other countries. JX3, a martial arts-focused MMORPG, is a joint project between Chinese-based CSUN and Taiwanese-based Wanin International. CSUN broke ties with Wanin International after the Taiwanese company refused to reprimand players in their region from referring to COVID-19 as the Wuhan virus in an in-game chat room. CSUN then took it a step further by issuing a 10-year suspension to each offending Taiwanese player.
Fuck.
While video game regulation is still under the umbrella of the State Administration of Press and Public Relations, the events from the last few weeks may prompt the Cyberspace Administration of China to push for further restricting guidelines in censoring the cyberspace of gaming.
It is completely insane the things we get every week coming out of China. China literally feels like it's another planet. Like, it feels like it's another, like, you're just like, holy shit, like, it's crazy over there. It's all about snuffing out the creativity and the imagination and individuality. Like, that's all it is. Like, that's what it is. It's crazy. It's insane.
A few years ago, maybe, I don't know about a few years ago, but about 10 years ago, there was a ban on video game consoles.
Mm-hmm.
I can almost see them taking that step again.
The problem
this is the reason why that we banned the shit in the first place, because we don't want you to see or we don't want you to hear conflicting views in policy and on life. You will get what we give you. That's what I'm seeing with this. This is very North Korea.
Yes.
This is very North Korea. You know, one thing that I always, I guess, in my mind for the last couple of years is that I've always assumed China, yes, communist party, communist country, I should say. However, they have been leaning a little bit more to the left in regards to allowing people to, not maybe to the left is the wrong word, but they have been allowing people to freely trade with other countries.
They're the strict parents that have loosened up a little bit.
Right. And when I see shit like this, I'm like, oh no.
Someone scratched Daddy China's car, and now they're pissed off again.
Yeah, this shit is crazy. Like, on one hand going as far as saying like, okay, Animal Crossing is shadow banned, or Animal Crossing, you can't get it through official means. Okay, yeah, you could get it under the table still. It's still able to come into the country. But to require players to use their real name on online video games is absurd.
Yeah.
Absolutely
It's
fucking
crazy.
absurd. Can't use a map editor for the fear of people like doing whatever they want on the map, making a free Hong Kong revolution of our time
area.
Yeah. Like they're doing in Animal Crossing. Making people use their real name so they can track you down.
Yeah.
That is insane. And you want to know something? Apparently, the kid who started all this thing, Joshua Wong. He apparently is off the face of the map right now. He disappeared.
Oh, great.
So it was in one of those articles where they're saying like, yeah, nobody can get in touch with Joshua Wong now.
Yeah, it looks like, hold on, we'll go to his Twitter real quick. Pin tweet. Well, his last retweet was on April 18th, so he still has access to the internet. So
okay, because then I must have misread that.
Yeah,
because from the way that it looks,
you wouldn't be wrong with assuming that, because
it's happened before.
People have just disappeared. Like, I don't want to get super into the politics and all that stuff, but I said from the beginning where the protests got really quiet. I'm glad they're not quiet anymore. They got quiet because of the COVID-19. Now they're not quiet anymore, so I'm happy about that. But it's safe to say, and I know I'm speaking for each of us as ScrubVerse as a whole, but we both believe this is bullshit, right?
Yes.
And we are so for the protest.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page and our listeners know that as well.
Yes.
Because this is impeding on not so much rights given to you by, government or your skin color or nationality or anything like that. These are basic fucking human rights. You have the right to be imaginative. You have the right to disagree with someone. And money and power is the only reason that people are trying to take that away.
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
That's what I'm saying is don't silence your voice. I'm not, to the day I die, I'm not going to silence my voice.
The other thing that just boggles my mind is the fact that a developer just takes their ball and leaves. Like this JX3 thing, this was two developers working together making an MMO. A fucking MMO. Maybe it was mobile, I don't know. Because I don't know much about JX3, but just the fact that there was two developers that were working together. And apparently the Taiwanese players were bullying the Chinese players by calling COVID-19 the Wuhan virus, which, yeah, that's a fucked up thing to do.
It is.
But when CSUN turned around and said, you need to reprimand those players, and Wanin said no, because they have freedom of speech.
God damn, do I want to see how big their balls are.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know who could take a fucking page out of their book? It's fucking Blizzard.
Yeah.
That is a company that knows that human rights are more important than fucking money.
Not anymore, apparently. But
it's ridiculous, man. Like,
that shit's crazy. But they would go as far as to issue a 10-year suspension to each player.
That's crazy.
Each player.
That's crazy. Just because you said something. This is the epitome of, like, this is like grade school playground shit. He said something bad about me.
Yeah.
Okay. Deal with it. He has the right to say that. I preach it, and this podcast preaches it every day. You have the right to say whatever the fuck you want to say when you say it, whenever you want to say it. Just be ready for those consequences.
But that
is a different story.
That's some crazy shit. That's some crazy ass shit.
That's how we're going to end our news articles today.